So the format normally of these sessions is a talk followed by a discussion. What I would like to do is to actually start with engaging you and let the content, the meaning, the concepts emerge from the interaction. So we're going to be observing that, observing what happens inside, observing what happens in the group. Some of us will be thinking a lot. Some of us will forget to think and be more into sensing. Some of us will alternate between both. There's no right way or wrong way. And so we're starting. We're right. We're in the middle of it right now. We're in the middle of it as we watch on the screen a bunch of little postage stamps with pictures on it, which are all of us. We're in the middle of it as we pay attention to what's happening inside. So I'm going to take a moment myself to pay attention to what's happening inside me. I'm going to describe it, but please do it in your own way. So for me, it starts with a pause. When I pause, I kind of notice that, paying attention to my breathing. I'm allowing myself to feel my butt on my chair, my feet on the ground. I'm noticing how much of my weight is on my elbows. And so I'm kind of experimenting with putting a little less weight on my elbows. And so I'm leaving a little bit of time for you to go inside and see what happens when you pause with some curiosity about what happens physically. And I'm going to share a little bit about what I notice as an invitation for each of you, those of you who wanted to share a few words about what you're noticing of your experience of pausing, what you notice physically. So for me, what I notice is that my spine is straighter and my breathing is a little deeper and I feel a little calmer. So anybody who wants to share what you notice.
This is June. Hello. I'll share that when I sat with you and got seated, I gave myself permission to stop thinking. I mean, as I wake up in the morning, which is right before coming here, so many thoughts, some of which I'd rather not have. But sitting here, permission to not think and just be here.
Great, great. Permission to not think and just be here. Yeah. Anybody else?
I notice that I drop into my heart when I pause.
Dropping into your heart, yeah. 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 Kim?
I sink into the support of what I'm sitting on. I really, really cherish that. And my shoulders fall back.
Else that, are you safe to drive?
I think we have
Okay,
the muting.
okay.
Yeah. So you're sensing into the sitting and your shoulders are dropping. And you cherish that. Yeah.
I sense that I'm sitting up straighter and taller. My body just wants to go now to a better posture when I pause. It's
Mhm.
getting a little more automatic, and I hear the birds now.
Straighter, better posture, becoming more automatic, and hearing the birds. Now. So just making room in case some of you want to share. Nobody has to, but just giving a little space. And so I want to check with you what your expectations are of what transpersonal focusing is, what you hope it is, what you're afraid it might be, and anything that comes up about what we're going to be exploring today.
I love that question, and I I go right to what do I want the word transpersonal to mean?
Mhm.
It's very inviting. Juice.
Very inviting. Yeah. And so, by the way, I want to follow up on what Lynn did. Is when I ask the question, the answer is not necessarily a definition. It could be what it feels like, as Lynn did. So it has a broad range of ways to address the questions.
I think you helped us do that, Serge, in saying what will we afraid it could be and what would be we want it to be.
Yeah.
So different than what is it?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. And so noticing, by the way, I ask myself how I experience the space and we are in, and I feel a sense of warmth but cautiousness, and I want to respond to the warmth and saying how much I appreciate it and validate the cautiousness. We're in a group talking about something, so it makes sense to not just rush into, hey, blah, 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 blah. So I want to just maybe have all of us just check, because maybe my sense of it being warm and cautious is not the sense that you have. So another question, in addition to your hopes, fears, expectations of what this is, you might also step in to say, here's how I sense the group. For me, it is ...
I I wanted to say something about that. Before you even said this feeling of a group, I felt the spaciousness of the group, which is usually something I do not sense online. And the difference between myself as an individual and the encompassing of a group, I just had a sense of that. And I felt good about wanting to be part of this group. Felt good.
So you felt the spaciousness in a way that you don't normally experience online.
Yes.
It felt
Yes.
good.
Yes.
That part of it, yeah. And by the way, this is a good comment, but if what is happening to you is feeling, I feel very constrained, I'm not at ease and so on, please do share it. This is not about enforced positive.
I'd like to share that I do feel more relaxed as I pause, but I also begin to notice that my mind is flashing thoughts, concerns, worries that I'm more aware of.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And so you have a choice of either sharing some of these concerns or deciding that what you really want to do is try to gently push them aside. So just take a moment to see which you would prefer to do.
In this context, I prefer to gently put them aside.
Okay.
If I were partnering, I would prefer to choose something to focus on.
Okay. Okay. And so, again, what is really nice is as people share, what emerges is a sense of more ways to be in this group, from more relaxed to noticing worries. And so hopefully this encourages you to bring forward your experience if it's different.
I feel a sense of unhurried arriving. And that may also partially be me. I was excited to see that you were presenting today, and I'm on vacation. I have nowhere I have to be after this. This can take as long as it takes. Like, that's what it feels like inside of me. And my sense of the group is we're still arriving.
Yeah, so that sense of unhurried arriving. Yeah. So, again, I see people coming in. So we're sharing the sense you have of the group, of being in this group.
I used to love Jean talking about the sharing as being a thickening of the felt sense of the group. And I very much resonate to that. Each time someone shares, there's a thicker soup that I'm embedded in.
Yeah, yeah. So the soup starts to be pretty liquid, and we keep adding more things, and it becomes thicker and richer, more substantial.
And then each of the things is an ingredient, and the ingredients sort of combine and merge and soften and whatever they do in the pot.
Yeah, yeah. So as you share this, Lynn, I have that visual image of a pot stirring. And, what it actually changes from the image of a soup to making custard. How when you make custard, it starts to thicken visibly.
Mm.
Hi, everybody. This is BJ. Serge, thank you so much for joining our group today. The word that keeps coming to me is legacy, that this group has been meeting a long, long time. And I know that when I step into the river here, I'm going to find a lot of things that I'm familiar with, I have history with. I know where the stones are to walk across if I don't want to get wet. And it's something akin to what Lynn said about thickening, except that it goes back and hopefully goes forward in what we think of as time.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you're adding the dimension of time and noticing that being here is not just being here in the present. You feel the presence of all that has happened in the past and contributes to this thickening.
Thank you. Yes.
I've been away for 8 weeks, and I was gone to India, and I tried to plug in from there one time, and I was partially successful. So presently, as I want to be part of the custard, I feel like a little lump in there, and trying desperately because I couldn't get the link because they changed some formats. So I called one of my friends and got the link in, and it's a connection. It's a connection that I missed having, and I got delayed in getting in the pot. So I'm glad that I'm here, and maybe I'll be less lumpy in a little while.
Yeah, so let's stay a bit with that image of a lump in that pudding that is thickening, and it's still being mixed and it's still trying to get to be a pudding. But for a moment, what's it like to be a lump in the pudding and to be, holding on to that sense of I'm me, and I still in a way want to be a lump, and I'm me, and it's uncomfortable to not be fully in the pudding, and kind of being a little bit on that edge.
I think my intention is to meld in more than to hold my lumpiness,
Okay.
So, because I'm in it for a long time, and I have learned a lot, and I enjoy the conversations a lot, and it's one of my things to be connected to my profession, my identity here as part of this country, and not, it's like all the things that I do here in America. So it's one of the things that I do.
So kind of the melting pot.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's intentional. It's intentional because you don't get the taste of the pudding until you are in it. You're in the pudding.
Yeah, you're not going to get the taste of the pudding until you're in it and until you're the pudding. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, as this is going on, I feel more in the pudding, and I feel, as Lynn had shared, the soup is getting thicker, richer, more ingredients, more tastes. Not a simplistic taste. In some way, we're trying to melt into the pudding, but also the image of the soup is better in the sense that the taste becomes more complex as we add more ingredients. Each one of us sharing an experience, adds to the taste of the soup. And so go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I think one of the things, Serge, that I'm really appreciating today is that you give me so much permission to be where I am. And even though I've been attending for 3 years, I always start out at the edge. It takes me a really long time to be able to enter in and feel a sense of belonging. So I'm just owning that and not shaming it, and just, I love all this permission to be where I am.
Yeah. So the permission to be where you are, and this actually as a gateway to belonging. I want to invite those of you who have not said anything or not said much to just ask yourself, what is it that I could say, even if only saying I'm here? And experiment with what happens when you bring yourself forward and add your little ingredient to the soup. So there's no obligation, but an encouragement to do that.
Hi, Serge. So nice to see you here. And hi, everybody. And thank you for what you brought, because what I was just feeling is that I became even more aware, and I could say the taste is more tasteful, if that word exists, tasteful. like what we have been doing and what you have been inviting us to do here has made me more aware of how I love this space, because I always try to be here. When I cannot be here, I'm a little bit frustrated. At the moment, I might have to leave, and that brings a little bit of frustration to me. But the thing is that the becoming more aware of what an enriching space this is. The being together with each person here, that having spent time sharing, and especially the way we share here, pausing and allowing us to feel sense and sharing from that space inside, and getting to know each person a little bit more, with some other people that come not so often. And the awareness is that this is such a wonderful space where we can allow ourselves, I can allow myself to be. and to sense into what is really present for me and share from that place. And I'm very grateful for this. Very grateful. So thank you, Lynn, and everybody that makes this space happen.
Yeah, yeah. So the appreciation and the gratitude toward Lynn and everybody who makes this space. Yes. Yes.
This is Gray. I have
Mhm.
something I could. Serge, when you issued that invitation for those of us who hadn't spoken, even though I said it was from Manhattan, I got immediately, like I got an image of high cliffs, beautiful, beautiful sky, but very high cliffs and a chasm. And I'm on this side and a sense of not so much being somehow like a combination of being disengaged and at a distance. But then I got the sense that if I decided to speak, it would be a crossing. And it's just as beautiful here and in the middle and out there with the group, I suppose, but I got that like a decision to cross on a bridge.
Thank you. So that sense of there's a chasm, and it's not just a simple thing to go from one side to the other, but there's a sense of a meaningful crossing.
Yes, I would say so. And it's kind of like in the decision to cross, the distance collapses and it's all just one beautiful landscape.
Yeah. Beautiful image. So in the process of crossing, the distance collapses and it becomes one.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so if you haven't shared yet, consider saying something. And
I'll
say-
go. I feel a lot of excitement to be here and a little bit of tentativeness.
A lot of excitement, a little bit of tension.
Tentativeness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm usually in a group, I'm usually the one who says something. So it felt very allowed not to say something. And when you invited us then to say something, the main thing that I always feel, especially listening to you, Serge, is a sense of safety.
Yeah, so the sense of being allowed and of feeling safe. Okay, so just a little bit more of a moment to give a room for some people who want to say something, and then we'll shift to more conceptual. So I think you get a sense a little bit from here of what I mean by transpersonal focusing. And I want to just give you a moment to shift into your more conceptual mind, to say, if I had to put some words to this experience, how would I describe it? What do I, how do I describe transpersonal focusing from there? What do I know? What do I have questions about? What would I want to know more?
inclusive.
Being, giving, inviting, sharing.
Being, giving, inviting, sharing. Yeah. Yeah. By the way, if some of you are inclined to do it and to take notes, I would be very happy to have your notes, not as a blow by blow or as a summary of what everybody said, but really to be, organized, to be your own conclusion of what you understand by transpersonal focusing. So you're not trying to capture the feeling of the group. This is highly subjective, okay? And so if you do, please, you'll send it to me. But right now, we're continuing to any words, phrases that come to you to describe this experience, or questions or comments about it.
The words of the philosopher Martin Buber came to me. I dash thou.
I dash thou.
What's coming to me is that sum is greater than the sum of its parts.
The sum is greater than the sum of its part. Yeah.
So to me, it feels like an opening to be with the differences and the sameness, the shared sameness.
So being with the difference and the sameness.
For me, there's this big word that is connectedness, and connectedness with myself, with others, and with everybody else. And feeling that connectedness from, I would say, my higher self, but I couldn't say other words for that. But something like that, being really connected to everything.
Being really connected to everything and everybody there. Yeah.
Serge, you asked for questions if we had questions. And so I saw that as an invitation to really move into the conceptual. And at the same time, I had a real hesitance and perhaps even sadness at moving over into the conceptual, because the experience is so lovely. The space that's been created is so lovely.
Yeah. So the sadness of losing that experience. Yeah. So by the way, just to give away the next parts of the program, as usual in the Help for Helpers, at some point we're going to shift into dyads. And it's going to be something about keeping some of that spirit. So don't lose it too quickly in going into the concept. Yeah, we're going to find ways to come back to it. And ideally, as we're talking about it conceptually, my invitation for you would be to look for the concepts from that sensing place, that felt sensing place, that feeling place, as those of you who have shared have. Including feeling the shifting, as BJ shared. So just feeling the shifting is a way of staying connected to the feeling, the felt sensing. So maybe that's a transition to let's talk about what we're going to do. And so, this is a group experience. And as somebody has pointed out, it's not just a group at this time, but it's also the group over time. It's all these experiences that come here. And it's not just you and me at this moment, but it's all our lifetime of experiences that brings us to where we are. It's also the lifetime of experiences of, say, our parents, the people we interact, because all of this comes to bear with the interactions we have. So we're in the middle of all the interactions of the world right now. Okay. And we have kind of a little bit of an opening to sensing more into being part of interactions. So I want to invite you to just sense that what's happening now is you, as you are here this moment, as you're reacting to what I say, what has been shared before, this group, previous groups, your lifetime of experiences, other sharings. But is it present for you or not? Or what is in the way or what comes up? So maybe just one or two people sharing about that.
There's something for me about a feeling of waiting. Waiting as the soup thickens and expecting something of the personal to pop up. Maybe at a certain stage, more carrots are put into the soup or something like that. But feeling this anticipation for something more individual and personal to rub up against or something.
So the sense of weighing and anticipation of the personal, something personal to emerge and rub off against that experience.
Maybe like a spice. Somebody might say, all this is well and good, but what's going on with you people or something? Or somebody might say, I don't really care, or I don't know, something.
So the possibility of disruption.
Yes, that, or wouldn't have to be disruption. It could be maybe somebody saying, it feels good to be here with all of you, but I'm really suffering with this or that or the other thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
So-
there's something about the transpersonal and the personal interacting. And maybe disruption is the right word of how those go together, the perturbation of the system.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing when you say that is a sense of, as you appreciate the system, you also are in touch with the vulnerability of it, of how there's a delicate balance which could be changed by somebody, you know, an element of the system being in a place where it changes it.
And
So-
almost like that is inevitable, maybe not in this hour or something, but it's an inevitable part of the soup making or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But so that sense of we're appreciating the sense of harmony, and it is inevitable that there is impermanence.
Yes,
I
Serge.
say, oh,
Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah.
I'm sort of playing here with the difference. I
Charles?
think I had my hand up. Is it
Yeah, yeah.
okay? Go ahead to speak. Yeah. I'm curious about the difference between inter and trans. Is it interpersonal, transpersonal, interaction, transaction?
Hmm.
What's the trans? Inter is between. Trans somehow takes me to above or surpassing or transcendental or transformation, or there's something a beyond. Trans somehow takes me to beyond, and inter takes me to here and now, us. But I'm not sure how it's, I'm just sort of playing with those two words and what the implying of each.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it's taking me yet, but I sense that there's an interesting difference.
Yeah. So you're pointing out that the experience or the conceptual meaning there is enriched by thinking in terms of inter versus trans. And inter, you experience or you sense of as being more of the moment, and trans is something that goes beyond. And there's
Somehow,
something
yes.
very,
Yeah, and they, how do they play together? Yeah.
Yeah. So how do they play together?
Serge, you asked us to notice the principles or the concepts as we go. I just had a little sense that we were turning, if focusing is a coin with focusing on one side, and we turn the coin to the other side, there's thinking at the edge.
Mhm.
And it just occurs to me that what we're doing now is tilting a bit toward thinking at the edge, but in a transpersonal way.
Yeah. That's a nice point. I think of it as being at the edge. And that, and so if everything is interaction, that as we sense into the interaction, you know, we experience ourselves being at the edge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a good time to make the transition for the dyad. So in a moment, you will go into dyads, and you know, you can take as a starting point for what you want to focus on whatever comes up for you. So I would encourage you to be spontaneous and not worry too much about the topic. But it's going to be whatever topic comes up for you, including, say, discussing what you got out of, this gathering. Just that sense of noticing how what's coming up for you as the focuser, what's coming up for you as the listener, is carrying with it the experiences, the sensing, the feeling, the thinking that went on in the larger group. So in other words, as you share and as you do your normal focusing, to notice the ongoing presence of the larger group in the one-on-one process that you're having. And to be curious about in what way it shows up for you.
Okay, well, we usually have Christine helping us to go into our breakout rooms, but she is traveling this morning and she wanted to be here in time to do that, but maybe Jim can help us to go into partnerships, and Christine will arrive when she does. Is that okay with you, Jim? And you?
It's happening.
It's happening. Good. It's happening.
So Jim, by the way, I'm not joining a breakout room.
Yeah, I won't be either.
Hopefully you'll both be in the same non-breakout room then.
We'll stay here. We'll stay here.
I think it's happening. So mysterious to me, the transpersonal of Zoom.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Rachel and Jim. Is Rachel available to a breakout room?
Jim, I was by myself, but you moved me to 9, but I couldn't get into 9.
Why can't you get into 9?
I didn't do anything and nobody joined 9.
It's Rachel. I can go into a room with Dorothy.
No one joined my room either. I think I'm room 1 or 2.
And we will come back at 9:30. So I think Christine is arriving also. We can have Christine and Jim work on these meetings. And I will see you all at 9:30.
I won't be joining any room. I just wanted to say that because I realized I just left abruptly.
Okay, it's good to say. Thank you for letting us know.
Thank you.
So what's
Have a good week.
happening now? You guys cannot go into meetings, or? What's Shashi, just no, you're out of your meeting room?
Let me see if Christine can help us here.
Well, for me, Serge, is there was no one in my meeting.
Oh, so can you shift people from the? Let's see if Jim comes back.
I'm back. I went to Shashi's room, but she left.
Oh.
Christine is joining to help,
Okay, good, good, good.
so.
What should we do in this great big room in the meanwhile?
Well, we're experiencing the waiting and a different sense of what it's like to be, you know, experiencing the disruption that Lynn was talking about, you know?
I'm experiencing it being my fault.
Technology.
I'm not experiencing as your fault, Jim.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Right. Just one person's opinion. It feels very complicated to me.
This is all.
Well, you have a bunch of rooms and there's two to a room, and then some people don't join their rooms, and then the other person wonders what they're doing in there. So you move them to another room, but meanwhile, the person in the other room decided that they were alone and they left.
Right.
That's me. I left to come back to
You
this.
see, it's like herding cats.
Yes, yes. I'm making your job difficult, Jim. I apologize.
I'm enjoying seeing this transpersonal, interpersonal phenomenon here of us trying to gather in particular ways.
We were talking about how this is a disruption that you predicted. It's changing.
Maybe it was my fault.
No. You had your pulse on what the future might provide.
Right.
Christine, put me in a room. If you hear me.
Yes. It's some internet problem. What about if we decide that this perturbation was predicted by me and that it's meant to be, and stay with the configuration that the universe gave us and see what's there for each of us in this space rather than resisting the space that was given?
Well, I think my resisting is meant to be as well.
Well, that's true. That's true. It's an ingredient.
Yeah.
And
So-
that struggle with, is it my fault or not my fault, is part of the ingredient of the whole. Very prevalent ingredient for most for most human environment.
Yeah. So just maybe the invitations to see how this is not something one of a kind, but other circumstances in life where it happens.
And the not one of a kind is part of the transpersonal nature.
Mm-hmm.
The personal, individual, quirky experience is sort of the necessary universal grist for the mill or something.
What should I do?
Oh,
Put me in a room.
Jim wants to be in a room.
I want to reject the room I'm currently in. Sorry, people.
So we were all on a big boat, and the big boat sank, and we were landing, instead of our boat landing to, a place where we're rescued by a boat that brings us to civilization, we're stranded on an island, and we're struggling with being on this island. And some of us say, I really still want to go someplace where I go where I was meant to be. And some of us say, oh, wow, we were meant to be on this island.
I just saw the movie Triangle of Sadness, and that is about, in part, being on an island.
How is it like this experience?
This experience, I think, was better than the movie.
In what way?
What way?
Had a better cast.
You're in the movie.
Well, so
I noticed,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I notice my yearning for the one-to-one contact. It's getting stronger and building. It's like, oh my God, like,
Oh,
I'm not sure what that's about, but it's just like safety. It's like more safety.
if you could go into a room with Jim. Fine.
So I'm inviting you to consider that the two of you, Jim and Dorothy, are in a room, like in a bubble. And anybody else who has this yearning is in the same bubble. And those of us who feel more of a sense of, oh, wow, this is an interesting experience, we're in another bubble. And we're kind of, we're in a room, but it's transparent. So, what does it feel like for you who are in the room of yearning and frustration? You want to share with each other and we can hear it.
I hate being in a transparent room.
Well,
especially when it's being recorded.
Oh,
which
wow.
makes it even more transparent.
Well,
and so I want to make it clear that at any time you have the option of turning off the video and audio. And so if you stay, it is with the intention of exploring the discomfort, but you don't have to.
Oh, I'm aware that Lucy Van Prague just entered our space and that I want to say hello to her because I haven't seen her in many months. And we connected because we have, my middle name is her last name. And so I'm very happy to see you here. I want to
say hello. Thank you for the welcome. It's lovely to see you too. Yeah.
And so we're having this little experiment of being in bubbles. So people who are in the bubble of not really wanting to be here and uncomfortable about that. Do you want to share some of this with each other?
Sure, I'm feeling anxious.
Yeah. So anybody else in that group wanting to share what feeling anxious or what's it like to be here, not really wanting to be here?
I think,
go ahead.
Can I just check something? A kind of consensus reality piece. I'm just realizing the time has changed in the USA. I'm not 4 minutes late. I'm an hour and 4 minutes late. Is that right? Okay, now I'm more understanding why I'm lost. Okay.
Didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
a transpersonal strand.
Yeah.
So
It's
the other subgroup, the subgroup of people who are kind of intrigued and excited about the disruption, want to share with other people in the group what it feels like to be in this subgroup.
It feels sort of magnetic to me. I mean, there was some domestic thing I had to do during the breakout rooms, and but then when this happened, I was sort of magnetized and said, "Oh, I have to see what happens here."
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Has something happened?
Yes, daylight savings times happened, and you probably think it's an hour earlier.
Jim, I don't know what to think a lot of the time. I don't even know. It's the same time here. It's changed over there, and people have mistaken it. Is that right?
Robert, you wanted to share something?
Sorry, sir. Did you mention to me?
Robert, did you?
Oh, yes. In answer to your question, Serge, for me, it was having an expectation of being in a dyad, and then some frustration that didn't happen. And now here I am with all of you lovely people. So it's not what I expected. And it's a little bit jarring because I was looking forward to having some type of discussion about transpersonal, and maybe we are, and I don't even know it, but it's not what I expected.
Well, in a very broad way, if you have a very broad thing about transpersonal and things that happen that are not just what you do and what another person does, we're brought in here. And there's something larger happening. And it's the gods of the internet who created this. And we're dealing with the cosmology of being brought here by the gods of the internet. And what it feels like.
The internet has demons, it doesn't have gods. And I say that as an internet pioneer.
I'm really sad to have missed an hour of this. It took a while to work out what was happening there, but I have missed an hour, and I'm sad about that.
Yeah. I didn't realize that, Lindsay, that I had missed an hour.
It's really amazing that how many of us are so hooked into it. People come from all over the world, and they're part of it. And this is amazing experience to be in this unpredictable situation. I feel very, very comfortable and amazed, and just
Yeah. We even have a prophet, at the end of the group experience, Lynn was predicting the possibility of something that might happen to make things change, and here we're living the prophecy.
When Pauline and Lucy came in, it shifted something for me. Because I was very happy to see both of them. I feel for that sense of being an hour late with the time change, how that's internally can be very disruptive. And I'm appreciative that you both at least got to join this group and to share what happened, that you had the space and time for that. And that helped, that larger piece for me helped me shift off of my need and yearning for the one-to-one group. I don't know if you're aware, but some of us, it didn't work internet-wise, that we got into our breakout groups, or we were in a breakout group and no one was there, type of thing. And so we're here.
You're in the breakout that did not happen.
I feel
Oh,
like
I
I'm in
see.
detention.
So this is like a group. So some people are in breakout rooms now.
Yes.
Oh, how
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
So it is an amazing, and it's also a detention experience. So
Detention.
The group combines, contains both experiences. Amazing and in detention.
I'm noticing the difference between the gods of the internet making this happen and the demons of the internet. And Serge, your intervention as the leader was to make meaning of the event, so that rather than it just being arbitrary that this happened to happen, you remembered my prophecy, but also elaborated on the meaning for us of the bubbles and how we felt about the bubbles and the meant to be-ness of it. And I think that is a quality of transpersonalness that I notice as the spiritual sensibility, is that sense of finding the meant to be-ness, the potential meant to be-ness, or the imaginative meant to be-ness, and trying it on creatively.
And so, again, you were prophesying it a bit when you were talking about the disruption, because I think in talking about the disruption, you were also talking about the possibility of some meaning emerging from it. And so what's happening here is shit happens, and what do we make of it? And how do we experience it? And how do we have both the default mode reaction, and how could we dance, with what's happening to possibly change the meaning of it?
I'm noticing that I think that's now a sub bubble of 3 of us who are an hour late because we didn't realize the time had changed. And I noticed that something I'm doing with that is noticing that I didn't do my homework. When I first came to this group, I spent ages working out the time and what time in my own time I needed to come in to join in with everybody. And then I got into the habit. It's 1:15, the group's at 1:15. I just show up at 1:15 and it will happen. And so I didn't do any homework. So I'm in detention because I didn't do my homework.
By the way, it is 9:30, and so people are going to be starting to come in from regular groups.
I just want to make one last comment about how it's intriguing to me. Some of us who will say, oh, this is an opportunity and what's going to happen. And some of us who will say, this is a punishment or a detention because of this, this, and this. And those two experiences that seem very universal.
And I would add how at different times we can be in different camps. Right now I'm definitely in the camp of how wonderful it is. And at times I'm in a place of, oh my God, what a horrible thing, and I don't want this to happen.
The attitude we bring to the situation.
At any given moment, yeah.
Well, as one of the people who turned up an hour late, I'm feeling really blessed that you're all here to welcome those of us, the three of us.
Yeah. Lindsay, I didn't realize you were one of them, so welcome to.
Yeah.
And I'm still maintaining I'm not late at all. Still the same time here.
Yeah,
Good for you.
it's great.
And so, any moment, this little bubble, mixture of small bubbles, is going to end. And so what does it feel to be at the edge of, we could be having another couple of minutes with the technicality. We could be having another 15 minutes with predictability. Oh, Christine is saying she's not the host, so either Lynn or Jim has to end.
I'll make Christine the host.
Jim, I'm glad you're back.
I haven't been the host in quite a while. If I was, I'd have put myself in a dyad.
Where is Christine?
But then you wouldn't have the punishment, Jim. You wouldn't have the pleasure of the self-punishment.
But I need more punishment, though. I don't feel punished enough.
Well, whatever you're into.
I don't see Christine here.
She's there.
Oh, maybe.
Close the rooms.
You want to make me the host? Or?
No, just close the rooms.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, just what's it feel like? This little experiment is ending.
Welcome back.
Yeah,
I didn't
recording.
do that.
Okay. Did our ranks thin tremendously?
We're going to be sharing about what happened in the breakout rooms. For those of you who were in dyads, in regular breakout rooms, please be aware that several people, due to intervention from the devils or gods of the internet, were not able to go in a regular breakout rooms and stayed. So some of the exchanges will reflect people talking about regular dyads, and some of the comments will reflect people being in the unforeseen bubble. So Kim, I don't know if you're talking or if you wanted to share, but we're not hearing you.
Sorry, I didn't realize my mic was open.
Okay. So anybody wants to share?
Yeah, I'll share briefly, Serge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, well, my sense is that two things. One is you're inviting us to have something come for each of us in terms of what trans personal focusing might be or mean. I'm not quite warming up to it yet, frankly. Because it somehow seems to not, even though you've started out with pausing, which is very much immediate and here and now, the way that trans speaks to me is only in so far in the sense that we share. And that in the sharing, something happens. So it's not just me sitting either alone in my room, which is not quite focusing. I mean, it can be, but I think Gene always thought of it more as a couple of people together doing it. But he could do both, but in some way, things carried forward more when you were with someone who was listening. So that's as far as I've gotten so far to where the trans is a little bit more than just focusing, because it goes to the soup, the mixing of the ingredients. So maybe that's what you're pointing to, but I have a feeling you don't want to point too much because you want us to get there ourselves. That's all. And that's what we talked about a little in the book.
Yeah. So Charles, what I'm hearing you say is that you experience the sense of something missing. You value the one-on-one quality of the focusing dyad. And so you're aware, or you're sensing something missing from when we were in the group.
Not so much that, no, just sort of not kind of puzzling into what's trans. I'll leave it there. How does trans differ from other focusing? Gene would talk about how you sometimes need to put two words together to sort of make it, you use the active pause and you use the natural pause. There's different types of ways of and that putting two things together, crossing two things already makes us, well, you're crossing trans with focusing. And I'm slowly getting, but not quite, what that does.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Slowly getting, but not quite what that does. Yeah.
Right. Leave it there. That's good. Yeah.
Good. Anybody else wants to share?
I'll follow up on, because Charles helps me to bring words to this. My question early on that I didn't say because I didn't want to shift into the conceptual too soon. My question was simply how, not whether this group, any two people, any one person could experience the transpersonal. Not that it wasn't possible, and I was marveling at how quickly it happened here, this experience of the transpersonal. And so the question that came up is then how? It follows directly on what Charles is talking about, but it wasn't, it was just simply, it wasn't really an eager question because I was so enjoying the transpersonal and the things it can bring me as nurture. But I was curious. So then now we move to putting it into focusing, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So I'm going to bring a couple of elements. I could talk about it for hours. This is obviously something I'm very interested in and go into lots of little nuances, but two very simple ways to think of it. One is to think of it as you experience it. And the more you experience it, it gives you a taste for it and a curiosity about it, so that you then become more eager to experiment. And by trial and error, you get farther than closer to it. And that's where focusing is a great tool, because focusing is a tool that teaches us to say, it feels right. No, it doesn't feel right. Okay. And therefore, it's a wonderful tool for experimenting. action research. You do something and you correct the direction as you go. So at some very basic way is without any direction is simply the more of a taste you have, the more you try to replicate it. And then you see what happens. To be a little bit more practical, some of the elements that people mentioned, in terms of description of the experience, was the notion of safety, the notion of respecting and welcoming differences, the notion of spaciousness, and again, related to this, metaphors like the soup, okay? So the soup speaks to the spaciousness, speaks to the invitation, speaks to the enjoying of differences, okay? And so how it articulates with regular focusing is, again, the regular focusing is a tool that enables us to do this kind of sharing, this kind of adding, because of our ability to go to that sense of feels right, doesn't feel right. So as Charles rightly pointed out, this is not focusing per se, in the sense of a dyad, something different, but it's using that ability to create that something larger. Okay. And then, in a regular dyad, the more you have the experience of that something larger, then the experience of the dyad is going to change, because in the dyad, you're not just experiencing me and you, but all of us, all of the past experiences of focusing, all of the past experiences of humanity, basically, are going to be in some way bearing on the experience of you and me being in a dyad at this moment.
So it's a human capacity that we have. And the more that we pay attention to it and attract it and are with it, this human capacity, it allows us more in these one-to-one focusings. It allows us to be more ourselves, to be more and to bring more.
Yes, it's a paradox that the more we are open, the more we are ourselves, because essentially we're not one-dimensional. So the opening to other people's experiences, and not just the other people in the room, but other people, being aware of all the variety of human experience, essentially opens up to more aspects of ourselves that we are blind to otherwise. So it enriches the field of possibility.
And points to a context, points to a larger context in which, okay.
Yeah, so context is a very nice word. It's a larger context. Say, if I experience myself the way I'm accustomed to, essentially my field of vision is this. But this, kind of expands the context. And then if everything is interaction, you are always in a context. And so in a smaller context, you experience a smaller part of you. And in a larger context, you experience a larger sense of self.
Oh, thank you. I'm getting it better now. Thanks.
I am excited about this and about how you're conceptualizing it, Serge. And recently, I've been challenging myself to articulate better ways in which I disagree with Jean, because I always emphasize, the capturing the treasures, but I can capture them more or differently when I challenge myself to articulate what I disagree. And the idea that we are interaction, I think, really speaks to that all focusing, all living is transpersonal, that there's always this dimension of how we are the interaction of the whole. outer and outer and outer, and inner and inner and inner, and that to be more aware of the transpersonal that's always there gives us this breadth. And instead of worrying about the interpersonal, say in a group, this person and this person are unhappy with each other, and how do we make reconciliation? We recognize that this unhappiness and this struggle is a universal struggle that's manifesting in this particular way, in this context of this particular group. And it opens things up and makes things very exciting.
Yeah, I really like the way you put it. It really, that sense of that the accident, the unpleasant, the thing that doesn't conform to expectation, the disharmony of, say, people who are in conflict in a group or bringing something difficult, is actually something that enlarges the context in which we experience the group. And, and then we have a sense, more of a sense of how we dance with it. Just the way it happens here, that for some of us, the breakout rooms didn't work. And so what happened in dealing with the accident?
Well, Lynn, actually, I think what Jean talked about, the larger system, seems to me like, in a way, you're pointing to that, what Jean was talking to when he talked about the bigger or larger system is the context. And I guess maybe that's also something like what you're trying to point to, Serge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Lynn captured it beautifully.
Okay.
I have nothing to add to that. That's beautifully said.
I would love to say something. Hi, Serge.
Hi, what's up?
Yeah. So I was really curious by the name. And I was really sorry to come in late, and I was really glad that there was this group there that was all in breakout rooms, and I've been silent, just soaking up the energy and listening. And I want to bring in something from the outer world beyond the focusing world, which is that yesterday I happened to stumble on LinkedIn to two amazing articles on the growing science of the scientists who are studying the feeling of awe. Yeah. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful that people are paying attention to what is this sense of connecting with something larger than themselves, and all the different ways that happens, and how frequently it happens, even though it's not part of our mental apparatus in this culture. And so we tend to not pay as much attention to it until we expand our mental constructs to allow us to have a deeper experience of this connection. So that's all. I just wanted to share that and say thank you.
Yeah. So I really am happy that you bring the concept of awe as an experience. And so what is important to me is that it doesn't have to do with a belief system that, say, transpersonal and awe is something that comes from the experience of, say, the divine that's outside of us. It's something that can come from the down-to-earth experience of simply experiencing the connection, experiencing how nice it feels to have my sense of safety expanding You know, instead of I can only feel safe with people who feel a certain way, to, you know, if I have my sense of safety expanding, then it's like I can be more in awe of the experience.
Yeah, if I may add just a little bit, there were, it was late at night and I was just skimming it, so I'm not totally remembering all the details, but there was like 8 main sources of awe, and anything connected with religion and spirit was like way down on the list. It was like that was connected with belief systems was like number 5 or 6 or whatever. Contact with the natural world was very high up there, and also very high up there was witnessing outpouring of natural human goodness. So whenever we see somebody, you know, being kind to somebody else, or, you know, being kind to a stranger or anything like that, that turned out to be one of the most frequent opportunities in which we end up having experience of awe at human kindness, at human goodness. And so I wanted to share that.
So Rosa, I want to take your words and, you know, just maybe as a conclusion, you use the phrase natural outpouring of human goodness. And so, you know, another question was, how do we recreate this experience? And so one way to think of it is to say we foster conditions in which there can be a natural outpouring of human goodness. So if we put together a group of people who are kindred spirits, have the intention of finding that, we make the group safe, inviting, and open, then essentially we are in a position to witness the outpouring of human goodness.
I'm loving this, but I'm also aware that we are 10 minutes over time and we have a poem. Can people stay for the poem? Those of you who can. And Serge, I want to thank you so much and everybody for this experience. And it does seem in a way awesome that with the time difference, those people who were cheated out of an hour of their time, a little bit of it back, you know, at the end here.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Serge.
Dorothy.
Yes. Thank you, Serge. Serge is introducing us to another poet, or for me, a new poet, Roger Wolfe, who's from Great Britain, a longtime social worker. He created a community of people at risk and people with long-term mental illness, and a place where he could provide a creative interchange between where they're living and with the community. And he's retired now, and where he says in his words that he feels, I feel most myself when writing as a poet or a prose writer. And the piece that Serge picked out is called A Second Song of I and Thou. The fact of my knowledge of you is far more a certainty than the fact of me. While I and you must both wane speedily, the fact of our knowledge of one another is eternal.
Wow. Okay. I'm glad we have that in the chat.
Yes.
So, looking forward to seeing you next time. And again, Serge, thank you so much. And thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Serge.
Bye-bye, everybody.